Welcome, welcome to day 2 of Jumpstart Your Creativity. It's Iona at Wren House Studio, and I'm really, really excited that you're here. I'm excited if you're here for the beginning of our challenge. I'm excited if you're picking this up as a recording later, because as we mentioned in our orientation, step 1, day 1, there's no time limit on jumpstarting our creativity. There's really lots and lots of pressure from around us, from outside of us. And for these 8 days, what we want to recognize is that there's also a lot of pressure inside of us. We create pressure inside of us. It's as if we're schooled, educated, and in being in a pressure cooker, in being afraid of our own life, in being chased by our own demons and dragons and strange beliefs. It's as if we're in some way masterful at putting ourselves last and somehow lacking oftentimes in being able to really be who we came here to be. So this 8 days of jumpstarting our creativity is not about getting to some specific place at a specific time. It's about being here now. It's about being in my body at this moment, recognizing that, as we mentioned yesterday with the battery connection and the jumpstart idea, that I have a positive force, I have a negative force, and those are both natural. They're not going to go away, and they ought not to go away. We might on any given day see an explosion of the negative force. We might on any given day see every cause for celebration for the positive point of connection. It doesn't, either one of those is just an awareness. We simply are jumpstarting, we're really just jumpstarting our creative awareness, recognizing that, oh my God, all my life, my demons have been chasing me down the road and I've never really stopped long enough to be who I am. Oh my God, I've been given every single thing I could ever need in my life. And now I feel guilty because there's struggling and there's suffering and there's, why am I not struggling and why am I not suffering? And it's just like, stop it. We always remind ourselves in all of our online programming here at Wren House Studio, at one point or another, we just say, stop it. Just put up that white glove traffic cop hand and say, stop it. So on day 1, we're thinking about, what is my dream? And a dream is a wonderful thing to have. And it's a really useful exercise creatively to take a deep dive into the current dream for my life and the dream that comes out of who am I being. And it's really, really useful to bring our healthy 6-year-old along with us, because our inner child, as we've often heard it referred to, our inner child is in us, lives in us, never goes away from us. For a long while, approximately 7 years, I lived in a very isolated way in a little tiny cottage, and my guy worked nights and slept days, so I very rarely saw him. And I was alone most of the time and able to just do whatever I would do. So I had a great big garden, and I kept a wonderful flock of Rhode Island red chickens, and I took a deep dive into studying my own art. What is my dream? As I mentioned yesterday in step 1, my dream eventually formulated itself into the recognition, and I didn't have it at that point in that little cottage in my isolated days. I didn't have it, but eventually my dream formulated itself as a little mantra, a little mission statement. You might find you have a little mantra, a little mission statement. You might just write the word dream for day 1, and then you might get little ideas about what my dream is. You might write them around the edges or draw little images or idea bubbles about possible dreams, dream the impossible dream. So I had all these dreams, and I studied and studied and worked and worked, and I drew and I drew. And for the first 4 years, I drew with charcoal from my wood stove. And every morning when it was time to relight the wood stove, I'd take all the drawings that I'd done the day before and I'd crunch them up and I'd light them and I'd throw them into the fire and I'd let go of everything I had done before. It took me a very long time before I learned about the whole Buddhist concept of impermanence, but I was intuitively drawn to that idea, non-attachment. Many years later, I traveled to Tibet and to India, and I learned about the women artists of Mithila. You might want to Google the women artists of Mithila. I don't think I ever have Googled them, but I imagine there is a web presence because a French woman wrote a book about the village of Mithila and the women artists. All the young girls who are born into the village of Mithila in India are raised to be artists, and they think creativity is important. Holding on to things is foolishness. So there's lots of different ways in which we can jumpstart our creativity. And one of the things that we might want to sort of ingrain in step 2 today is the idea that our dream has to have legs. It can't just be this thing out there nebulously floating about and like little butterflies and hummingbirds around our heads trying to get us, our attention. We want to take that dream, and for step 2 and for our second day of prompting, we want to use Gauguin, the artist Gauguin. He taught me way back there in that little cottage, working in a very isolated way. I learned from the master artists. I studied them just diligently. I was so dedicated. How did they get to understand their own voice and how they move through the world and how they make marks on paper? And these 8 steps to jumpstart your creativity, my creativity, they don't have to be the idea of jumpstarting a studio practice. We don't have to be art makers, painters, sculptors, crafters. We don't have to be dancers. We don't have to be actors. We can simply be living our life as our creative out picturing. As mentioned, Carl Jung saying yesterday, if you have nothing to create, you can at least create yourself. And who are you being? So in step 2, the idea would be to take the words of Gauguin. And Gauguin said, I close my eyes in order to see. And what happens when we close our eyes? Step 2 is, I close my eyes in order to see. And our key word for step 2 is vision. So our keyword for step 1 is the dream, and our keyword for step 2 is the vision. Close my eyes in order to see. Now, for our second prompt, again, your own inner teachers, your own inner guides, your own pantheon of unseen holy helpers, mighty companions, and your inner angelic board of advisors, whatever name you want to give them. It's integral to everything we do at Wren House Studio, is reminding ourselves, we don't do this by ourselves. We're not alone. We always have these wonderful whispers that come to meet us. And so I close my eyes in order to see leads us to a wonderful friend of our challenges, and that is our old friend. Capital O, old, capital F, friend, old friend. And we can take one of our blank index cards, and we might want to just kind of fold it in half. So this is maybe like a part 2 of step 2. Step 2 is the vision. I close my eyes in order to see. And part 2 of step 2 is to make a little card out of our 7 by 5 inch blank index and make a little note to ourselves. It's like a little secret admirer note, and inside we write the words, old friend, what would you do? Old friend, What would you do? We take that card, maybe we draw something beautiful on it, maybe a flower, maybe a lotus. I love to do, I don't know, it just comes very, very natural to me. I just often in my journaling, I will just draw a very quick doodle of a glyph of a lotus. And I always write the word yes inside the lotus. That's just my little glyph. So that might be the front of my card. And then inside I write, old friend, what would you do? And I place this either next to my bed, or I can slide it into my pillowcase. And for the 8 days of the challenge, I'll have this. What is that? When I put my head on my pillow, what is that crinkling inside my, oh yeah. Old friend, what would you do? And as I go to sleep, I'm asking, old friend, what would you do? And old friend is all the yous that you have ever been throughout time. Just imagine that. All the yous that you have ever been throughout time. This doesn't have to be a belief system. This could just be part of the creative prompt. Ooh, I've been all these me's over all these different millennials, all going way back, way back, way back. Maybe I actually lived in the caves. Maybe I was actually of importance at some point in time, what we like to call an influencer these days. Maybe I was an influencer once upon a time in one of the me's that I have been. And so old friend is all the me's that I've ever been throughout time. This is one of my very, very favorite creative prompts in my own studio practice. Old friend, what would you do? Again, taking a walk. Again, looking at the water. Again, maybe you can walk outside your door and create a fire in the evening, just light a fire, watch the flames dance. Find a way to connect to one of the elements of earth, air, fire, water, and ask the question and go into your dream time. And as your eyes close, as Le Gauguin says, I close my eyes in order to see. What does that mean? Well, as Caroline Mays and her energy anatomy work, which I'm really excited to always touch in on, I'm glad it comes forward from time to time for me to share with you. Caroline Mays reminds us that our physical eyes are not the way that we really see the world. The way that we really see the world is through our third eye, our intuitive eye, our inner eye. So we have inner ears and we have inner eyes. And in step 2, vision, what is my vision? How do I take my dream and allow my dream to get legs so that it's a vision? If we have a vision, we can sit all day long and think, I want to get a new car. I want to buy a new car. And so, oh, what kind of car do I want? Oh, I want this kind of a car. And so we dream about that car. But to have a vision of that car is we go and we cut out a picture of the car and we put a magnet on the refrigerator and we pop the car up there. And then every time we open the refrigerator door, oh yeah, that car. It's as simple as that, so whatever our idea is, whatever our inspiration is, whatever our relationship is, whatever our challenge is, whatever the chaos in our life is at this moment in time, whatever the trauma and the drama, we want to have a dream of what's beyond that. And we want to have today in step 2, we want to give ourselves permission to let the dream morph, take its next rightful movement into becoming a vision. So that's step 2 for our 8-day jumpstart your creativity challenge. I remind you that you don't have to do the challenge right now. You can definitely download the video to your computer, put it into a folder, 8-day challenge jumpstart folder on your desktop, pop the videos in there. And when you get an opportunity to engage them, it'll be just the right time for you. It's also useful to remind ourselves that we're looking at sort of a 6-week window for engaging this particular challenge, if you are taking it on right now, to just see a horizon line that's taking you out 6 weeks. Look at your calendar and find that point, find that 6-week point and circle it. And then really begin to track, writing in your journal and making your note cards, saying yes to your dream becoming your vision. You're going to see how this all fits together as the days unfold. Thanks so much for being here. And quick reminder, we do have a private Facebook group. And if there's anything you'd like to share, your little cryptic drawing, the way that the font that you used, the color that you used, the way in which you chose to phrase old friend, or the way that you decided you wanted to place your dream onto your card. There's so many different ways in which our inner 6-year-old absolutely adores our playtime like this. This is playtime with purpose. See you tomorrow.